Hey guys, I'm Sam from Rennline. Today we're going to be installing this EX08 titanium valved exhaust on a 1974 Porsche 911. Let's start off by talking about this exhaust a little. So the headers will dump raw exhaust into these two inlets. The exhaust will flow directly up into the upper chamber here, into the two quadrants. There's a set of baffle plates where the exhaust will flow to the center. There are two standpipes that are baffled that will flow down back into the entire lower chamber down here, and then out these two outlets and out of the car. If you have the valves open, these two guys, the exhaust will flow in, will go directly across, so you can see the tubes on the inside. The exhaust will come out of these two center ports, effectively bypassing all the interior baffling. All right, so let's go put this thing on the car. First step is going to be to remove the old factory exhaust. I personally like to start by removing the two straps that hold the exhaust on. This hardware is going to be different depending on what your car has. Sometimes they're socket head screws, sometimes they're hex. This is a 17mm hex right now, so let's go ahead and remove these. So you don't actually need to take them all the way off. Just loosen them up to the point that you can slide them over. All right, now we'll loosen up these flange bolts here on the exhaust. Once all the hardware is out, go ahead and remove the exhaust. So this factory exhaust weighs about 25 pounds. The new titanium exhaust weighs just under 13. So you're effectively saving 12 pounds on the rear end of your car. We're gonna reuse the factory clamps that you have. So go ahead and put them on the new exhaust. Make sure that the threaded part is in the right orientation. All right, so let's go put it on the car. Get your hardware and gaskets ready. I suggest grabbing a friend. You can do it by yourself since the exhaust is so light, but let's get started here. All right, we've got the exhaust bolted up now on the flanges, so we're gonna put the exhaust hangers back on, and then we'll put the exhaust pipes on. All right, so get the exhaust strap around the hanger right here on the car. This is what I was talking about before, doing the threaded part in the back and the pass-through up front. So squeeze them together when they're in place, slide the bolt in, and get the thread started. And then move to the other side. Or they're too tight, you can adjust their orientation to a point that you like so they're out of the way, and then tighten them the rest of the way. All right, now that we've got the exhaust firmly mounted in place, let's mount up the tips here. So don't forget your gasket and use the M6 hardware. It's worth mentioning that this car is missing its rear center lower valance. These exhaust tips are designed to fit underneath the valance on a factory car. So the valance would come down like this. Now that we have the exhaust installed on the car, we have to install the valve actuators. So when you check out, you'll have two different options. One is an electronic vacuum pump, and the other one is just a electronic vacuum actuator switch. So this uses a vacuum source from the car. If your car has carburetors or doesn't have a good vacuum source, you'll probably want to go with the vacuum pump. And if it's a more modern car, you might be able to use this one. Run it up with the fuel line. All right, so we're going to connect the two valves to the actuator right now. First is to tee them together. So I'm going to start with the valve on the passenger side. I'm going to push the hose over the end of the valve. We're going to use this hole right here as a zip tying mount, like this. Don't pull it too tight. Get the distance about right, and then we're going to tee it together like that. So I'm going to cut my hose here. Put the tee on. Next, we'll cut a short piece to connect the driver's side valve. And then attach it to the valve. If you look up here, there's a straight shot right up into the engine bay. So I'm going to attach the third leg of the tee and then feed the excess hose up into the engine bay. Now that we've got our power and our vacuum run to the engine bay, we're going to mount our vacuum pump back here. Now is a good time to mention that every car is different, every build is different. This build, we decided to use a vacuum pump and connect it right to the cigarette lighter. We supplied 2 vampire clips, so if you want to hardwire the vacuum to the engine bay, you can cut this pigtail, pull the wires out, find switch power, and connect it yourself. Alternatively, you can mount the vacuum pump inside the car and run the vacuum lines back. Every car is different, every build is different. For this install, I'm going to put the vacuum pump right here. This is a good solid mounting point that's not going to interfere with anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and zip tie this into place. So run your vacuum line over to the nipple on the vacuum pump. Figure out how long it needs to be and then cut it down to size. The last step is to connect the power. So I'm going to figure out approximately how long it needs to be. I like to wrap up the excess so it's out of the way, and we'll zip tie that together and out of the way. Find the notch on the connector piece and the notch on the pump, push it in and tighten it down. Next step is turn the key on so the power is on to the car and test to make sure everything works. Take your remote and hit on, and you should hear the pump and see the light. All right, so that just about wraps up our install of the EX08. Let's go take it out and see how it sounds. If you like this part and you want to see more, go to Rennline.com.